The Luna ring rested on a black velvet cushion beneath the blue flames of Frostfang's great hall. Evelyn Hart had spent 7 years preparing to wear it. Tonight, another woman stood beside the throne. Celeste Rowan wore ceremonial white, one jeweled hand resting on Lycan King Adrian Vale's arm, as though she had always belonged there. Behind them, 12 pack banners hung motionless above hundreds of gathered wolves. Evelyn stopped at the center of the hall. Her silver coronation gown whispered across the stone. Beneath its fitted waist, hidden from every watching eye, were 2 heartbeats she had discovered that morning. Adrian looked at her, but the warmth she knew was gone. "Evelyn Hart," he announced, "you stand accused of selling Crownfang's eastern defenses to Ashen Claw." A murmur swept through the hall. Evelyn's fingers tightened around her moonstone pendant. "That is a lie." Council Chairman Gideon Rowan stepped forward, carrying a leather-pack ledger. He opened it beneath the royal seal. "Your signature authorized 3 payments," he said. "The final payment was made one night before our border patrol was ambushed." A security crystal glowed in his palm. Smoke gathered above it, shaping an image of Evelyn entering the restricted archive. The date burned beneath the vision. Evelyn studied it once. "I was treating wounded soldiers in the southern infirmary that night." Gideon smiled without warmth. "Then perhaps 30 witnesses imagined your absence." Evelyn turned to Adrian. "You saw me there." His jaw hardened. She remembered his blood on her hands, his fever breaking beneath her palms, and the promise he had whispered when dawn reached the infirmary windows. "When you stand beside me, no one will question your honor." Now he descended 1 step from the throne. "The evidence carries the royal seal. So does my request for a moon trial." Several elders shifted uneasily. Celeste lowered her lashes. Her perfume, white roses and honey, smothered the colder scent of fear beneath it. Adrian's eyes flickered toward the council. "A trial would divide the kingdom when our enemies are gathering. A trial would reveal who forged that ledger." "You will kneel," Adrian said. "Confess, accept exile, and your life will be spared." Silence swallowed the hall. Evelyn felt the first faint flutter beneath her ribs, not from fear, but from the mate bond recoiling inside her. She looked at the man she had healed, advised, and loved. Then she looked at the cushion. Gideon lifted the Luna ring and offered it to Celeste. For one suspended moment, the moonstone remained dull. His thumb brushed its underside. A pale, artificial glow spread across the gem. The wolves began to bow. Evelyn did not. Celeste extended her hand, triumph trembling beneath her delicate smile. Adrian faced Evelyn again. "For the security of Frostfang, I reject you as my mate and strip you of every claim to the Luna title." Pain exploded through Evelyn's chest. The bond tore like a heated blade between her ribs. Her knees threatened to fold, but she locked them straight. Blood filled her mouth, where her teeth cut her tongue. No cry escaped her. Adrian's hand moved half an inch toward her before pride stopped it. Evelyn unclasped the moonstone pendant her mother had given her. She placed it on the first step of the throne. The small silver chain struck the stone with a sound sharper than a scream. "You promised no one would question my honor," she said. Adrian's expression tightened. "I was wrong to believe a promise from a man who fears the truth more than war." A growl stirred in his chest, but Evelyn had already turned. No one stopped her as she crossed the great hall. Some lowered their eyes. Others watched with the silent guilt of people relieved that injustice had chosen someone else. At the doors, Evelyn paused. She did not look back. "Keep your crown, Adrian. Keep your counsel, and the woman your ring had to be forced to accept." The doors closed behind her. Only then did Evelyn press one trembling hand against her abdomen. The healer's crystal, hidden inside her sleeve, pulsed twice. 2 small heartbeats answered. And somewhere beyond the locked doors, Gideon Rowan quietly ordered the royal guards to make certain none of Adrian Vale's unborn bloodline ever left the palace alive. My dear friends, stories are built with words, but channels are built with trust. We know that a subscription should not be requested as though it is owed. It should be earned through consistent stories, thoughtful narration, and respect for your time. So we will not pressure you. Instead, we simply ask you to judge us honestly. If this story has captured your attention, touched your heart, or made you curious about what happens next, please consider subscribing. And if something is missing, tell us. Your constructive words can help us become the channel you would be proud to return to. Thank you for giving a new storyteller a chance. Now, let us return to the moment where everything begins to change. The lock clicked behind Evelyn as she entered the royal suite. Only then did her knees strike the marble. Pain ripped through the wounded mate bond, spreading from her chest into her spine. Her wolf clawed against the severed connection, searching for Adrian while Evelyn pressed both hands over her mouth to smother the sound rising from her throat. She would not let the guards hear her break. Across the room, Adrian's cedar scent clung to the bed they had shared the previous night. One of his shirts remained draped over a chair. The sight of it hurt more than the blood gathering beneath Evelyn's tongue. She forced herself upright. There was no time for grief. From inside her sleeve, she withdrew the folded medical file the royal healer had given her that morning. 2 tiny circles had been drawn beneath her name. Beside them were 2 separate heartbeat readings. Twin pregnancy, approximately 6 weeks. Evelyn's thumb trembled over the words. Adrian did not know. For one dangerous moment, she imagined returning to the great hall and placing the file in his hands. She imagined his expression changing when he learned that the woman he had condemned carried his heirs. Then she remembered him ordering her to kneel. The file disappeared beneath the lining of her traveling cloak. A violent spasm bent her over the dressing table. The rejection fever had begun faster than the ancient texts predicted. Heat burned through her blood, while ice gathered beneath her skin. Evelyn opened the lowest drawer and removed a healer's case. Inside lay herbs, bandages, and 6 silver needles. Silver was dangerous to wolves, but in controlled amounts it could interrupt the nerves carrying bond pain. She pushed one needle beneath her collarbone, another into the inside of her wrist, the agony dulled enough for her to breathe. She changed out of the coronation gown and pulled on dark trousers, boots, and a wool shirt. She packed water, dried meat, medicine, and a small silver dagger. Nothing bearing Adrian's crest went into the satchel. A soft creak came from the adjoining chamber. Evelyn froze. Behind a half-closed door stood the cradle she had secretly ordered 3 weeks earlier. It was unfinished, its pale wooden frame still unpolished. She had planned to show it to Adrian after the ceremony. Her hand touched the doorway. Then pounding shook the suite's outer doors. Lady Evelyn, a guard called. By order of the council, open immediately. Not Queen, not Luna. They had erased her quickly. A hidden panel beside the fireplace shifted. Royal Beta Marcus Hale stepped into the room, breathing hard. His uniform was unfastened at the throat, and guilt hollowed his face. You need to leave now. Evelyn drew the dagger. Marcus raised both hands. I am not here to arrest you. You stood silent while they condemned me. His eyes dropped. Yes, the honesty stopped her more effectively than an excuse would have. Marcus placed a bronze key on the table. The servants' tunnel beneath this suite leads past the eastern wall. It has not been used since Adrian's grandfather ruled. Another blow struck the doors. Evelyn did not reach for the key. Why are you helping me? Marcus removed a folded council notice from inside his coat. The official order says you are to be detained for questioning. He turned the parchment over, revealing a line of black symbols pressed into the wax. But this is an execution cipher. Evelyn recognized it from old military records. Remove the bloodline. Her blood turned cold. They know, she whispered. I don't know how much, Marcus said. Gideon entered the restricted records room this morning. He may have seen the healer's appointment. The guards began striking the doors with something heavy. Wood cracked around the lock. Marcus looked toward Evelyn's abdomen, understanding entering his face. Does Adrian know? No. You must tell him. He had the opportunity to hear me before he rejected me. Marcus flinched. Evelyn took the bronze key. If you want to help, keep him away from the eastern wall for 20 minutes. She crossed to the cradle and rested her fingers against the unfinished wood one final time. I am sorry, she whispered, not to Adrian, but to the children who would never sleep inside it. The doors splintered. Marcus shoved the hidden panel wider. Evelyn entered the narrow stone passage as royal guards flooded the suite behind her. She locked the tunnel door and descended through darkness, one hand against the wall, the other protecting the medical file beneath her cloak. Above her, men searched the chambers. Ahead, a faint light appeared. Evelyn moved toward it until a familiar scent reached her through the dust. Wet earth, leather, iron. A royal tracker stepped from the shadows and blocked the tunnel. His hand was already wrapped around the hilt of his blade. The tracker stepped fully into the tunnel, and Evelyn recognized Captain Owen Cross, the man who had trained half of Crown Fang's border patrol. His blade remained drawn, but his expression was not murderous. It was conflicted. Dust drifted between them as pounding echoed from the sealed door above. Evelyn kept one hand near her silver dagger and the other over the medical file beneath her cloak. Neither of them moved first. "Owen," she said, "read the order before you obey it." His eyes flicked toward the satchel, then to the sweat shining along her hairline. He had tracked wounded wolves for 20 years. He knew rejection fever, and he knew the protective curve of a pregnant woman's body. "The king ordered you detained," he said. Evelyn pulled out the council notice. "That is not the king's cipher. Look beneath the wax." Owen took the parchment without lowering his sword. The black marks under the seal made his face harden. He had seen that code once, during a purge ordered by Adrian's grandfather. "Remove the bloodline." Before he could speak, boots scraped behind him. Tracker Rafe Mercer emerged from a side passage, a wolfish grin exposing one sharp canine. "Captain," Rafe said, "Chairman Rowan warned me your conscience might become inconvenient tonight." Rafe lunged before Owen could turn. Steel struck steel, sparks flashing against the tunnel walls. Evelyn backed away, fighting another spasm beneath her ribs. Owen blocked the first blow, but Rafe drove a hidden blade into his side. Owen grunted and dropped to one knee. Rafe stepped over him, raising his sword toward Evelyn. "Nothing personal," he said. "The council cannot allow disputed heirs to divide Frostfang after tonight ends." Evelyn waited until he entered reach. Then she flung healer powder into his eyes. Rafe screamed, clawing at his face, and she drove the pommel of her silver dagger into his throat. He staggered. Owen rose through the blood, soaking his uniform, and struck Rafe across the temple. The tracker collapsed. "Go," Owen rasped. "I will report that you escaped through the western drainage gate before the alarm spreads." Evelyn knelt beside him and pressed bandages against the wound. "His knife missed your heart, but not by much." Owen caught her wrist. "Adrian did not sign that order. His signature leans left when he is angry. This one leans right." She met his eyes. His seal still made it possible. Owen released her. He understood she was not absolving the king merely because another man had forged his name. The tunnel opened beyond the eastern wall into sleet and darkness. Evelyn ran through the pine forest, using supply routes she had mapped during Adrian's second winter as king. Behind her, horns sounded from the palace. She crossed streams, doubled over stone, and crushed wild mint beneath her boots to fracture her scent. Still, the rejection fever worsened, making every breath feel like glass dragged through her lungs without mercy. Near dawn, she reached the frozen river, marking Crownfang's border. Hoofbeats and wolves thundered behind her. Evelyn removed her mother's moonstone pendant from the pocket where Marcus had hidden it after the ceremony. The silver felt warm against her palm. She wanted to keep one piece of the woman she had been, but survival demanded cruelty. Evelyn smeared the chain with blood, tied it to a deer, and whispered goodbye. The trackers veered toward the false trail. Evelyn stepped onto the ice. A crack split beneath her boot. She ran anyway, arms spread for balance, while black water surged below. Halfway across, the wounded bond convulsed. Her vision vanished. The ice broke, swallowing one leg, and freezing water seized her hip. Evelyn drove the dagger into solid ice, pulled herself free, then crawled toward the neutral bank through blinding snow. She crossed the boundary as the first arrow struck the ice behind her. The invisible pack bond snapped again, and Evelyn collapsed in the snow. She curled around her abdomen while distant riders retreated, unwilling to violate neutral law. A black wolf appeared between the trees, bearing Haven Reach's wave insignia. It shifted into a broad-shouldered man. Alpha Rowan Blackwood knelt, inhaled, and his eyes sharpened. "You carry 2 heirs." Evelyn woke to the sound of waves striking stone. For one disoriented second, she expected the cedar scent of Adrian's chambers. Instead, the room smelled of salt, boiled herbs, and blood. Pain tightened across her abdomen. "Do not move." A gray-haired woman leaned over her, pressing a glowing healer crystal beneath Evelyn's navel. "Doctor." Nora Ellis wore no pack insignia, only a stained linen apron and the exhausted expression of someone accustomed to arguing with death. "The rejection fever triggered bleeding," Nora said. One child's heartbeat weakened during the night. Evelyn's fingers closed around the blanket. One, the second remains strong. The first is recovering. A harsh breath escaped Evelyn. She turned her face toward the narrow window, refusing to let the tears fall until Nora had looked away. The medical file lay on a table nearby, dry and unopened. Her children were still hers. The door opened. Alpha Rowan Blackwood entered without ceremony. In human form, he was broad-shouldered, dark-haired, and marked by a pale scar running from his left temple to his jaw. The black wave crest of Haven Reach was fastened to his coat. His gaze moved from Evelyn to the bloodied cloth beside the bed. "You crossed into neutral territory carrying a royal scent," he said. "Crownfang riders waited at my border until sunrise. I did not ask them to follow. No fugitive ever does." Nora gave him a warning look. She nearly lost both babies. "Which is why I need the truth before her enemies bring an army to my villages." Rowan placed a smooth gray stone on the bedside table. Ancient runes circled its surface. An oath stone. Evelyn pushed herself upright despite Nora's protest. "My name is Evelyn Hart. Until last night, I served as royal healer and strategic advisor to Lycan King Adrian Vale." Rowan's expression did not change. "And the children?" "Mine. That was not my question." Evelyn placed her palm on the stone. The runes warmed beneath her skin. "I did not betray Frostfang. I did not sell military routes. I was denied a moon trial, rejected before the kingdom, and pursued under an execution cipher." The stone remained gray. "No lie." Rowan studied her more carefully. "What do you want from Haven Reach?" "Asylum for my children." "Only them?" "If Crownfang demands a body to prevent war, give them mine after the babies are born." Nora swore under her breath. Something cold moved behind Rowan's eyes. Not pity. Recognition. He removed a folded sheet of parchment from his coat. "Haven Reach does not trade refugees for political comfort." He cut his palm with a small blade and pressed the blood against the page. The black wave crest appeared beneath it. "Sign, and neutral law protects you until a formal hearing." Evelyn read every line before taking the blade. The blood-packed paper required loyalty to Haven Reach's civil laws but no obedience to Rowan personally. It granted shelter, medical care, and protection to unborn children. She signed. Nora reached for the medical file. "I need the father's name for the birth record." Evelyn stared at the empty line. "Leave it blank." Before Nora could respond, a bell began ringing outside. Not a ceremonial bell. An alarm. Rowan reached the window first. Villagers were running toward the lower district, carrying limp children in their arms. Nora's face drained of color. "That is the Well district." Evelyn swung her legs from the bed. "You cannot stand," Nora snapped. "If several children collapsed at once, this is not fever." Another cramp bent Evelyn forward, but she forced herself upright and pulled on Rowan's spare coat. The lower village smelled of seawater, panic, and something bitter beneath both. 3 children lay on blankets beside the public well. Their lips were gray. Silver veins spread beneath their skin. "Silver root poisoning," Evelyn said. Rowan crouched beside her. "It does not grow near the coast." "Then someone brought it here." She ordered the well sealed, sent villagers for charcoal, salt, and sea fennel, then mixed a binding draft while Nora treated the weakest child. Some villagers resisted taking orders from a stranger. Rowan did not command them to obey. He simply asked, "Do you have a better healer?" No one answered. By sunset, all 3 children were breathing normally. Evelyn knelt beside the well as Rowan lowered a lantern into the shaft. A metal object glimmered beneath the poisoned water. She hooked it with a rope and pulled it free. It was a small bronze badge, shaped like a crowned wolf. The private crest of Gideon Rowan's council office. Rowan stared at it, his expression turning lethal. Evelyn closed her fingers around the wet metal. The council had not merely chased her to Haven Reach. They had prepared the village to die for sheltering her. By dawn, Evelyn had transformed the healer house into a command room. Maps covered the table, poisoned water samples lined the shelves, and Gideon Rowan's bronze crest lay beneath a glass bowl. Alpha Rowan watched her compare delivery dates, while rejection fever still trembled through her hands without slowing once. The public well had been sealed, but fear moved faster than poison. Parents crowded the courtyard, demanding answers. 3 village elders blamed Crownfang, then blamed Evelyn for bringing danger. She let them finish before opening Haven Reach's supply ledger and placing one stained shipping receipt beside Gideon's crest in silence. "Silverroot entered through your northern warehouse," Evelyn said. "The shipment was recorded as lamp oil, but this ink contains powdered iron. Frostfang Council clerks use it because ordinary ink freezes during mountain winters." Elder Thomas narrowed his eyes. "And we should trust a rejected woman over our own merchants now." Evelyn met his stare. "Do not trust me. Test the ink. Search the warehouse. Question the driver separately from the quartermaster." Rowan remained beside the doorway, silent. He offered no alpha command, no shield of authority. If Evelyn wanted Haven Reach to follow her, she would earn it herself today. 2 hours later, the driver confessed. A masked buyer had paid him to replace 3 barrels, then ordered him to abandon the wagon near the coast. The quartermaster produced a second receipt. Evelyn aligned both pages and found identical transaction codes to those recorded in the forged ledger from Frostfang. The discovery chilled her more than the sea wind. Gideon had built the accusation against her, and the attack on Haven Reach through the same financial network. He had expected Rowan either to surrender her or watch children die. What he had not expected was Evelyn reading his trail backward. She organized teams before sunset. Fishermen searched the cliffs for abandoned barrels. Healers tested every cistern. Merchants surrendered invoices for inspection. When one elder refused, Evelyn recited Haven Reach law from memory and showed that emergency contamination statutes permitted temporary seizure of records. The man handed over his keys quietly. Near the schoolhouse, a small boy named Eli waited with his mother. He had been the weakest child beside the well. Now color had returned to his face. Evelyn checked his pulse, and he wrapped thin arms around her waist. "Thank you, Luna," he whispered against her coat with relief. The title struck harder than the rejection fever. Evelyn stepped back so quickly that Eli's mother caught him. For an instant, she saw blue flames, a false ring, and Adrian ordering her to kneel. "I am not a Luna," she said gently. "I am only the healer who arrived first." Rowan saw the lie. Evelyn had done more than heal. She had restored order without demanding worship, and Haven Reach had obeyed because her decisions worked. Later, inside the empty command room, he placed a cloth around the hand she had cut, signing the asylum pact. His touch remained careful. "You recognized council accounting codes while half-conscious," he said. "You treated poisoned children while carrying 2 endangered lives. What exactly did Adrian Vale believe he was discarding?" Evelyn withdrew her hand. "Something politically inconvenient." Rowan's gaze lowered to a faint silver pattern appearing beneath the skin of her wrist. He knew the mark. His mother had shown it to him in Forbidden Histories, the crescent branches of the Moonborn line. Rowan covered Evelyn's wrist before Nora entered. He did not tell her what he suspected. Hope offered too early could become another weapon, especially when royal children were involved. That night, Rowan summoned his fastest rider. "Find Silas Reed," he ordered. "The old keeper of ancient law was last seen near the northern monasteries. Tell him Haven Reach has found a bloodline the council tried to erase." The rider left before moonrise, carrying copies of both poisoned receipts securely. Far north, Frostfang's winter stores failed within the same week. Medicine shipments vanished. Border captains disputed orders, and villages discovered that Celeste could not read the ledgers Evelyn once balanced nightly. During her first council ceremony, the Luna ring flashed, darkened, and split across the moonstone with an audible crack. 13 years after the poisoned well, Haven Reach no longer resembled a refuge built from driftwood and fear. Stone clinics lined the harbor, merchant ships carried its medicines across neutral waters, and children from broken packs studied beneath the black wave banner. Evelyn Hart had built every system without calling herself Luna. At 42, she wore authority as quietly as the scar beneath her collarbone, where Adrian's rejection still ached. On the morning of the Red Moon examinations, Lucas Hart stood before the Coastal Academy's tribunal, with one hand resting on a stack of law books. He was 13, tall for his age, and controlled in the unnerving way Adrian had once been, before power taught him impatience. 3 judges had challenged his claim that exiled children retained rights under protection. Lucas answered by quoting the right of blood inquiry. When the presiding judge dismissed the statute as obsolete, Lucas opened an older volume and placed his finger beneath the original seal. "A law does not die because powerful men stop obeying it," he said. The chamber fell silent. Evelyn, watching from the rear balcony, felt pride warm the place where fear usually lived. Lucas won the debate, but his expression never softened. He had not studied law for trophies. Across campus, Lyra Hart ignored the celebration and followed the scent of blood into the training yard. A wolf had collapsed after touching a silver-coated blade. Before the academy healer arrived, Lyra dropped beside him and pressed both palms over the blackening wound. Moonlight gathered beneath her fingers, although the sun had not yet set. The poison lifted in threads, and a crescent of branching silver appeared beneath her wrist. Gasps spread through the yard. Lyra pulled down her sleeve too late. She was braver than Lucas, and less willing to hide what others feared. Yet when Evelyn reached her, Lyra looked 13 again. "You said our marks were only rare," she whispered. Evelyn saw accusation beneath the hurt. For years, she had protected them with half-truths, believing silence safer than a crown. Under the red moon, protection became imprisonment. That evening, Evelyn opened the cedar box she had kept locked beneath her bed. Inside lay 13 unsent letters addressed to Adrian Vale. Some contained anger. Others described first steps, fevers, birthdays, and the night Lucas accidentally shattered every window in the healer house with his alpha command. Evelyn had never mailed one. When the twins entered, she placed the letters between them. "Your father did not know you existed," she said. Lucas did not touch the box. Lyra opened the oldest letter and found a dried drop of blood beside 2 recorded heartbeats. "Why did you let them keep calling you a traitor?" she asked. Evelyn looked toward the harbor where Haven Reach's lamps burned like a second constellation. "Because surviving you mattered more than clearing my name." Lucas finally looked at her. "Those were never the only available choices, Mother." A knock sounded before Evelyn could answer. Alpha Rowan entered with Silas Reed beside him. The lawkeeper leaned on an ashwood staff, his white hair braided with faded council cords. He studied Lucas first, then Lyra's exposed wrist. Without bowing, he placed 2 DNA blood cards beneath the red moonlight pouring through the window. Both cards ignited silver and gold, revealing the Vale crest intertwined with the forbidden moonborn branches clearly. Silas exhaled as though releasing 13 years of guilt. Lucas carries the royal alpha line. Lyra carries the moonborn succession mark. Together, they invoke the twin crown doctrine. He removed a folded blood-packed paper from his robe. Marcus Hale's signature crossed the bottom, witnessing that Evelyn had requested a moon trial before Adrian rejected her. The law had been violated in front of the kingdom. "You are both heirs," Silas said. Evelyn felt Rowan watching her without pressure. She feared vengeance would consume her children, yet denying them truth had already sharpened it. Lucas took the seal Silas offered and placed it beside the unopened letters. Lyra covered Evelyn's hand. "We are not asking permission to hate him," she said. "We are asking permission to know him." Lucas met Evelyn's eyes. "Mother, you don't have to return, but your truth does." The first report reached Northern Court before sunrise. 2 13-year-old wolves in Haven Reach had activated royal blood cards beneath the red moon. One carried the alpha line of House Vale. The other bore the silver branches of the Moonborn dynasty. Celeste Rowan read the message twice before feeding it to the fire. Across the royal chamber, the cracked lunar ring lay inside a locked glass case. Its moonstone had darkened after the last council ceremony, and the crescent-shaped burn on Celeste's finger refused to heal. Her father entered without knocking. "They are children," Gideon said. "Children can be discredited. They are Adrian's children, only if they reach the court alive." Celeste stared at him. 13 years earlier, she would have flinched at the suggestion. Now she merely drew a glove over her burned hand. "They have the blood cards," she said. "Silas Reed is with them." For the first time, Gideon's confidence slipped. Silas knew where the original trial records were buried. Before noon, smoke began rising from beneath the western wing. Royal guards rushed toward the underground archive, where flames devoured shelves containing generations of sealed judgments. Marcus Hale was already inside. He wrapped his coat around his face and forced his way through the smoke, searching behind a row of scorched military ledgers. 13 years ago, he had hidden one security crystal inside a false stone compartment because guilt had been the only courage he possessed. His fingers found the crystal as the ceiling groaned overhead. Marcus escaped seconds before the archive collapsed. From the courtyard, Adrian watched flames consume the records of his reign. His expression remained controlled, but his wolf raged beneath his skin. Only 3 people knew the archive's private entrance: Marcus, Gideon, and Celeste. Adrian crossed the palace without guards. He entered the council chamber, while Gideon was dictating a statement blaming Ashen Claw rebels for the fire. "Leave us," Adrian ordered. The clerks fled. Adrian placed the cracked Luna ring on the obsidian table. Why did it reject her? Gideon did not look down. Ancient objects fail. This ring survived 6 wars. It was damaged during Evelyn's treason. Adrian's hand struck the table. Stone fractured beneath his palm. "Do not use her name to answer a question about your daughter." Gideon's scent sharpened with anger. "My daughter gave Frostfang 13 years of stability." "No," Adrian said. "Evelyn's systems gave us 3. After that, we survived by consuming what she built." The admission tasted like blood. Frostfang's medicine network had collapsed. 4 border packs had withdrawn their loyalty. Celeste still required servants to explain the winter ledgers Evelyn once balanced before breakfast. Adrian had called those failures temporary because the truth was unbearable. The kingdom had not lost Evelyn when she disappeared. He had thrown her away. Celeste entered the chamber with one hand resting over her abdomen. "You should not upset yourself, my love," she said softly. "Not now." Adrian turned. Gideon's eyes warned her to remain silent, but Celeste smiled and announced that the royal healer had confirmed she carried the king's heir. For one suspended moment, Adrian heard nothing. Then the chamber doors opened again. Royal healer Miriam stood outside, pale but resolute. "I confirm no pregnancy, Your Majesty." Celeste's hand dropped. Miriam stepped forward and placed a medical file on the table. The blood sample, labeled with Celeste's name, belonged to a pregnant servant from the eastern kitchens. Adrian opened the file slowly. Celeste's fear finally became visible. "It was necessary," she whispered. "The kingdom needs certainty before those illegitimate children arrive." Gideon seized control before Adrian could answer. Under the traitor's blood statute, offspring born to an exiled conspirator may be arrested upon entering Frostfang. If Evelyn's children cross our border, the council will detain them. "You will not touch them," Adrian said. The Alpha command shook dust from the ceiling. Gideon's face hardened. "Then publicly acknowledge a traitor's heirs and watch the 12 packs question your fitness to rule." Adrian looked from the forged medical file to the cracked ring. For 13 years, the council had disguised fear as duty, and he had rewarded them by calling his cowardice leadership. "The coronation is suspended," he declared, but Gideon had already issued the invitations. By nightfall, bells announced that Celeste's unborn heir would be formally recognized the next morning. Guards filled the streets. Council loyalists surrounded the great hall. At dawn, 4 travelers appeared outside Northern Court. Evelyn stood between Rowan and her children as the iron gates opened. Lucas crossed the boundary first. Lyra followed. Every royal wolf in the courtyard turned toward them. Then, one after another, the king's guards lowered their weapons and dropped to their knees. The royal guards remained on their knees as Evelyn crossed the courtyard between Rowan and her children. Snow gathered in her dark hair, but she did not lower her gaze. 13 years earlier, she had left these walls bleeding, nameless, and hunted. Now the black wave crest of Haven Reach rested over her heart, and every wolf who had once watched her exile knew she had returned beyond their reach. Adrian stood at the top of the palace steps. For a moment, the Lycan King disappeared, leaving only a man staring at the son who carried his jaw and the daughter whose eyes mirrored Evelyn's. Lucas did not bow. Lyra did not smile. Adrian's hand tightened around the cracked Luna ring as if metal could steady him. "You are my children," he said. Lucas answered, "We are her children first." The words struck him harder than any challenge to his crown. Celeste appeared beneath the archway, gloved hand hiding the ring's burn. "Guards," she called, "arrest the traitor and her illegitimate offspring." No one moved. Gideon raised the council notice, but Silas Reed advanced beside Evelyn and struck his ashwood staff against stone 3 times. "By the law of the untried Luna," he declared, "Evelyn Hart demands moon trial now." Evelyn entered the great hall without waiting for permission. The blue flames burned beside the throne, exactly as they had on the night Adrian rejected her. This time, she wore no silver gown and carried no hope of being chosen. Rowan walked at her right, not ahead of her. Lucas and Lyra remained at her left, each holding evidence the council had tried to bury beneath 13 years of silence. Marcus Hale stepped from the guards and placed the original security crystal on the central table. Nora followed with Evelyn's medical file and the twins' DNA blood cards. Silas added the blood pact paper proving she had requested trial before rejection. Adrian stared at the pregnancy record. His face lost color. "You knew that night," he whispered. Evelyn's voice remained level. "I knew our children needed protection from your kingdom." Lyra approached the glass case containing the Luna ring. Celeste moved to block her, but the moonstone shattered the lock before the girl touched it. The ring rose into the air, crossed the hall, and settled against Lyra's palm. Silver light poured through the cracks Celeste's enchantment had created. Across the gathered pack, wolves gasped as the false glow from the coronation replayed above them, like a living public accusation. Then, the ring projected a second memory. Celeste, veiled in Evelyn's cloak, entered the restricted archive, while Gideon pressed a forged royal seal into warm wax. Gideon shouted that ancient magic could be corrupted, but his voice cracked when Lucas stepped forward. The boy's alpha aura rolled through the chamber, not violent, but undeniable. "No one will touch my mother," he said, "and no council order will bury this again." Adrian descended from the throne and stopped before Evelyn. The wounded bond tightened, old pain recognizing its source. He looked at Rowan, then at the children, and finally at the woman he had believed would have nowhere to go. "I did not know," he said. Evelyn held his gaze. "You knew enough to demand my confession without hearing me. Ignorance may explain your loss. It does not erase my suffering." Gideon attempted one final command. "Arrest them under the traitor's blood statute." The guards remained kneeling. Silas lifted his staff. "That statute cannot override royal blood-invoking inquiry." Rowan placed Haven Reach's sealed asylum pact beside the other evidence. "Touch Evelyn or her children," he said, "and 12 neutral territories will treat it as an act of war." Celeste's composure broke. "They came to steal everything," she screamed from me. Lyra closed her fingers around the ring. Its light deepened, and another image began forming above the hall. Celeste, speaking with Gideon on the night Evelyn vanished, ordering trackers to eliminate the unborn bloodline. Even Adrian stopped breathing. Silas struck his staff for the third time. "Moon trial is opened." The doors sealed themselves, trapping king, council, heirs, and accusers beneath the judgment of law until truth delivered its verdict. Moonlight poured through the sealed dome as the Luna ring hovered above Lyra's palm. Its silver glow spread across the great hall, touching every witness, every counselor, and the throne Adrian had once believed untouchable. Silas Reed raised his ashwood staff. "Under moon law, no title outranks truth." Gideon Rowan scoffed, but sweat gathered at his temples. Evelyn stood beside her children, calm enough to frighten him without speaking once. Marcus carried the original security crystal to the center table. When Silas activated it, the false image vanished. The true recording showed Celeste wearing Evelyn's coronation cloak, entering the restricted archive, and placing forged documents inside a royal cabinet. Gideon pressed Adrian's stolen seal into hot wax, while a council clerk adjusted the date. The clerk's frightened voice echoed clearly. "Chairman, what if the king asks for a trial tomorrow?" Gideon's answer filled the hall. "Then we make certain he never hears her request." Adrian closed his eyes, but the words offered no refuge. He had heard Evelyn ask. He had refused. The crystal could expose forged evidence, yet it could not erase his choice. Celeste shouted that recordings could be altered. Silas turned toward the eastern doors. "Then let the living witnesses speak." Captain Owen Cross entered visibly scarred. Owen placed the black-coded council notice beside Adrian's seal. "I was ordered to eliminate Evelyn and any unborn bloodline," he testified. The signature was forged. "I realized it after Rafe Mercer attacked me for hesitating." He described the tunnel, the knife, and Evelyn saving his life before escaping. Then Marcus opened a second ledger. Every transaction was intact. The payments attributed to Evelyn had been inserted on council paper later. Adrian stepped down from the throne and removed the crown from his head. Gasps rippled through the hall. "I waive royal immunity," he said. "I submit my decisions to Moon Trial." Gideon stared at him as if witnessing treason. Adrian faced Evelyn. "I cannot undo what I did. I can only stop hiding behind what they did." Her expression softened nowhere. "Then answer the law," she said, "not your guilt." Celeste began retreating toward the dais. The Luna ring followed her movement, brightening with each step. "I did what queens have always done," she cried. "I secured power before power destroyed me." Evelyn heard the fear beneath the confession. Celeste had spent her life believing safety could only be stolen. But when Lyra moved closer, Celeste seized the dagger from a guard's belt and dragged the girl against her chest. The blade pressed beneath Lyra's jaw. Silver smoke rose from her skin. Adrian surged forward, but Celeste screamed, "One step and your daughter dies." Rowan's wolf pushed against his bones. Lucas's alpha aura shook the pillars. Evelyn alone remained still. She reached into her healer's pouch, closing her fingers around moonwort powder. "Celeste," she said softly, "you wanted my title. You never learned that a Luna protects others before herself." Evelyn flung the powder into Celeste's face. The false Luna inhaled, and the muscles in her sword arm locked instantly. Lyra twisted free, driving her heel into Celeste's knee. At the same moment, Lucas slammed both palms against the oath shield surrounding Gideon. Golden cracks raced across it. Gideon shouted an alpha command, but Lucas answered with one stronger. The shield shattered, throwing the council chairman onto stone before everyone. Guards chained Gideon with silver restraints. Celeste collapsed beside the fallen dagger, her burned hand reaching uselessly for the ring. Silas declared both guilty of conspiracy, attempted murder, bloodline erasure, and corruption of Moon law. The final sentences would come later, after every hidden victim was named. Adrian knelt before the Moon trial, without crown or command. For the first time, the pack saw Adrian awaiting judgment, like another wolf. Silas turned toward Lucas and Lyra, as dawn silvered the windows. "The twin crown doctrine has awakened. Frostfang cannot remain without a recognized successor beyond this sunrise." Lucas looked at his mother. Lyra still held Evelyn's hand, her neck marked red where the dagger had touched. Neither child stepped toward the throne. Silas lowered his staff. "Before sunrise," he warned, "one must accept the crown, or both must change law." Silas Reed's final warning lingered beneath the silver dawn. Lucas stood before the throne, while Lyra held the Luna ring against her wounded palm. Neither child moved toward the crown. Evelyn watched them exchange the silent understanding only twins possessed. They had returned to expose a broken kingdom, not become prisoners of it. At last, Lucas faced the gathered packs. "We choose another law," he declared before sunrise fully broke. He invoked the twin crown doctrine, the ancient provision allowing royal twins to delay succession and establish shared guardianship until adulthood. Lyra placed the Luna ring on the council table instead of her finger. "A crown should measure responsibility, not ownership," she said. The ring blazed silver, accepting her decision. Across the hall, wolves bowed again, this time to the law rather than any single ruler before them that morning. Silas pronounced a transitional council composed of pack leaders, healers, merchants, and neutral representatives from Haven Reach. Adrian would remain acting king, but every decree required public review. His power to exile, reject trial, or hide behind royal immunity ended immediately. He accepted the judgment without protest, because resistance would prove he had learned nothing from losing Evelyn. Then Silas ordered Celeste and Gideon brought forward for sentencing before everyone. The Luna ring tore Celeste's title from her with a flash that burned through the glove concealing her scar. She screamed as the enchanted crest vanished from her skin. Gideon received imprisonment pending trials for every exile, poisoned village, and erased bloodline connected to his records. Celeste was sentenced to Silver Monastery, where no servant, jewel, or counselor could pretend she was powerful again for the rest of her life. After guards led them away, Adrian descended the dais and stopped before Evelyn. No crown rested on his head. No alpha command sharpened his voice. "Come back," he said, and the plea exposed how little he had left. Evelyn felt the bond stir beneath her scar. but it no longer pulled her toward him. "You may earn time with our children," she answered. "Not ownership of me ever again." Adrian looked at Lucas and Lyra. "I will not ask either of you to call me father," he said. "I will begin with the truth and accept whatever place you permit." Lyra studied him, measuring the man against 13 years of absence. Lucas remained guarded, yet moved one chair away from the council table. It was not forgiveness. It was only space where forgiveness might someday learn to breathe. Outside the hall, Rowan waited beneath the stone archway, while snow softened the palace steps. He had stood beside Evelyn through accusation, motherhood, rebuilding, and return without demanding a reward. "Haven Reach is ready for you," he said. "So am I, but I will not become another choice made under pressure." Evelyn touched his hand. "Then walk beside me," she replied, "and let tomorrow answer what today cannot." Before leaving, Evelyn approached the council table and looked at the ring that had once represented everything stolen from her. She did not wear it. Instead, she placed the moonstone beside the public charter and turned its brightest face toward the gathered wolves. "Let this remind every ruler," she said, "that loyalty cannot be forced, and love cannot replace justice." The hall answered with silence deeper than applause itself. At breakfast, Lucas and Lyra found Adrian standing awkwardly beside a table crowded with bread, fruit, and steaming tea. Neither child invited him to sit. Then Lyra pushed an empty chair toward him with her foot. Lucas pointed at the serving dishes. "Kings feed themselves here," he said. Adrian almost smiled. He filled his own plate and accepted the seat without speaking of blood, crowns, forgiveness, or promises at all. When Evelyn departed Northern Court, the bells rang across Frostfang, not for a coronation, but for the first lawful dawn in generations. She carried no Luna ring and claimed no borrowed throne. Rowan walked beside her. The twins followed after one final glance toward Adrian. Evelyn had returned to restore her name, not recover her cage. This time, every kingdom understood that the choice was hers alone to make forever. So, Evelyn's story closes here not with the crown she was once promised, but with the freedom to decide what deserved a place in her life. Are you still here with me? Then you know her deepest victory was never revenge. She was betrayed by the man who should have trusted her, misunderstood by the kingdom she helped protect, and punished for a crime she never committed. She suffered, but she did not beg. She left because staying would have required her to surrender the last thing no one had the right to take her dignity. We cannot control who believes a lie about us. We cannot force someone to recognize our loyalty, and we cannot make another person choose courage over pride. What we can control is whether their mistake becomes the definition of our life. Evelyn stopped asking to be chosen and learned to choose herself. She protected her children, built a home from nothing, and returned only when she no longer needed anyone's approval. Adrian lost a queen and eventually learned to serve his own breakfast. Honestly, accountability has to begin somewhere. Comment, freedom, if you believe betrayal does not get the final word in your story. And if Evelyn's journey stayed with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories of courage, truth, and powerful new beginnings.